Guys, welcome back. So today we are going to finally be doing an updated ambulance tour slash what's even going on with the ambulance slash everything we've done to it so far. If you're new here, this is like the 1,000,001th rig that I've owned and traveled in full time. I'm currently in the desert for the winter, as you guys can see, and I thought this was the perfect time. It was a gorgeous day to clean everything, organize it all, so you could see exactly what's going on in the ambulance. I'm gonna let you know right here off the top. It's not pretty. I didn't have time to do much of it when we were switching out the van and everything because I had to do that rather quickly because I didn't have a place to be working on it, and then it was snowing where we were, and I had a ton of work to do. As you guys saw, you saw all of my sponsorships and other videos I needed to post, and so I had other obligations. So the boyfriend came through on a lot of this stuff. He did all of the insulation pretty much by himself. He did the entire bed by himself to really make this happen because I was not going to bring the ambulance with me if I couldn't get the heater, the insulation, and at least a bed in there because it would have just been miserable, obviously, to travel like that. So he really came through. Everyone can give him a big thanks that I even have the ambulance with me to build out this winter. We have a lot of plans for it. We actually are starting to work on like the actual plans. So other than the bed, not much is probably going to stay the same, but I think that's like the fun part about doing these videos. You kind of see how things evolve, and we've been using the space, and I'm actually really loving the ambulance. I thought I wouldn't enjoy it as much as I did, but it is really comfortable. It's the perfect size. It fits in a parking spot just fine. I have cameras all the way around, so it's easy to back up and maneuver and all of that. The actual ambulance itself has been running super great. We did all the fluids. We did some like preemptive transmission work. We did the stuff that you like run through it, kind of like seafoam, but I can't remember which one we actually used to like run through it. It did great going over the mountains. I've been like really fine-tuning how to drive it, and I think the last time I tracked my fuel economy, I think I was getting like 16.5 miles a gallon. So it's been going really good. The only thing I haven't done yet still is tires that got put on the back burner. But yeah, so everything's been going well. We did have like one tiny transmission problem, and it ended up being an electrical problem, which I will update you guys. The electrical in the ambulance has been the biggest problem of the entire thing. It would have been probably easier to buy an ambulance that somebody else didn't already have their hands in, because picking up where somebody else left off with an insane amount of electrical, like not even just like, oh, there's a couple things here and there are wires and wires everywhere. Like as we kind of go and figure out what things we need to keep and what things we don't, we just literally cut the wire and keep it, because then I'm not going to have to buy wiring for the rest of my life because we can reuse it somewhere else. But the control panel in there ended up causing a different electrical issue in the front, and so we had to disconnect like all of the ambulance stuff completely. And now like my lights like come on random times, and like there's just stuff that's happening that is going to take like a lot of time and patience to work through. But the ambulance is legal. There's no like actual like lights or sirens. I know a lot of people asked about that. We disconnected all of that. My like reds and blues that would be the flashers, all I did was take some silver spray paint and I spray painted over the red and blue, so then I'm not impersonating a ambulance, because I'm not planning on painting the ambulance until we get back to our like new summer spot where I have the space to work on it. And so I just covered them. I just literally took the covers off, spray painted them, and like put them back on just so then I'm like compliant. We also took all of the decals off. A lot of people were really worried about that. But that was one of the first things we did. And if you guys don't know, they make things called decal erasers, and it makes things easier than just like sitting there and like scratching and peeling at it. But you have to have like the hand and arm strength to hold a drill to get the rubber to actually peel off the adhesive for you. It actually works really well. It doesn't scratch the paint. We had a really good experience using the decal erasers, but you need some like hefty arm strength to do it that way. I tried to do it the other way with like the heat gun and just like peeling it or leaving it in the sun and then peeling it. And the decal eraser is way faster. I would highly recommend them. They're expensive if you have to get them from like AutoZone or like O'Reilly's or something. But if you get them off Amazon because you know you're going to do it, I think they're a little bit cheaper. So if you're going to take the decals off, just do that. And then you guys know I love insulation. Insulation is one of those things that like I every once in a while get a lot of like comments about the insulation part and that like I focus too much on it. But if you've never slept or been in a rig that has no insulation, you would know why. That I have been like so psycho about it after the trailer I had. That Intech Soul was like barely a 2-season camper. It had no insulation in it. I'm like, we literally peeled back the walls at one point because we were like, why is it like this in here? And it literally had like less insulation than like Reflectix. Like it was the smallest little piece of like bubble wrap essentially. There was no insulation to it. And that's why it was so cold, and that's why the heat didn't work really well. And so everything since then, including my cargo trailer that I had learned before, like a metal box is going to get hot and it's going to get cold. So we've been trying to insulate everything. So right now, everything inside is just raw insulation. The insulation was easy though, because if you get foam board, you can literally cut it out and just stick it in all of the pieces. Not to say that it didn't take time and care, and it took him a long time to literally custom cut every single one of those pieces and pound them in. But we then just did, instead of having to cut some of the weird stuff in the ceiling, we had leftover insulation from another project we're working on and did like the batted insulation to be able to shove it into all the weird cutouts in the ceiling. And then the last thing we have to insulate is the wheel wells. But we hadn't done that because we weren't sure where my diesel heater is going to go. So when we were still in the van, when I went back to South Dakota to do my medical appointments, we on a super whim ordered a diesel heater, got a cheap one from Beaver, and I cannot believe I have been spending so much time without a heater. It completely changes your quality of life, I would say, to have a heater, even if it's not super cold. When we were going through the mountains to try to get south, we were in like the teens at night, and the diesel heater worked so well. We didn't even have to have it that high. I think the highest we've ever run it on is like 3 out of 5. But most nights I literally keep it on 1 because it continues to run. I don't have one that has like its own thermostat because I didn't even know if I would like it or not. It doesn't like shut off and kick back on or anything. So it just constantly runs. And I have it hooked to my old lithium battery from my trailer, and that battery is then hooked to my solar. I have 1,000 watts of solar now on the ambulance because I can fit more, and 600 watts of that is going to that 200 amp hour battery. And I think on my charge controller, the diesel heater pulls 2 amp hours a night, running the entire night, and then it uses like maybe 2 liters of diesel. And I'm always carrying diesel because this is a diesel vehicle. And yeah, so the heater's been great, and that's one of the biggest things that I did. Also make sure to treat your diesel if you're going to be in that cold of weather, because it'll get all gummy and weird. So just look that up. Other 400 watts of solar is going to go to the like Blue Eddies and power stations. I had the original 600 from the van, moved those over. Now I have 1,000 up there, but they're in 2 separate things. So one's going to a battery and then one's going to the power stations. Almost nothing but the diesel heater is hooked to that battery yet, because I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with the lights and everything else. So yeah, I think that's the update on all of that stuff. We obviously brought over the composting toilet, so I have a toilet in here just like normal. We have our projector wall. A lot of people commented when I did that projector brand deal that like I was never going to use this, and we literally use it every single day watching Gilmore Girls at night before we go to bed. And so I hung up a sheet on the wall so we could just watch it in bed, and that is honestly the way to go. So then I also have a power station that I run the extension cord up into the ceiling to keep the projector charged and going while we're watching. obviously I have Starlink with me. I won't probably roof mount it. I had a friend who just had her Starlink fly off her roof with the like approved Starlink mount, and that freaked me out. So I had plans to put it on the roof, and I am not going to do that anymore because I have plenty of space underneath the bed to store the Starlink. I do have plans on putting roof vents in. Currently, there's no way unless I have the doors open to the ambulance to like ventilate anything, because nothing like opens and closes. So I'm actually going to be putting in 2 roof vents, I think I decided on. One towards the front and then one towards the back, so then it can circulate the air in the back. And I'm not going to put any additional windows in. I'm just going to do roof vents. We've been on like a thrifting kick lately. So we went to the like Restore for Habitat for Humanity, and they had a set of cabinets there. So I picked those up on like half off day for like $20, I think. And so that's been my like extra storage, and just to kind of see if I like having cabinets up top. I know I don't want them around the bed because I had cabinets above my bed when I had the trailer, and I hit my head a lot on them getting in and out of bed and making the bed, and it just makes things weird. But towards the other side, I think having cabinets to store food or clothes or whatever else is really nice. And then the underneath of the bed can be for more like as needed items, and like everyday things can be really accessible. I've obviously brought over my other bins that I was using in the van because they work just fine, and so I've been using those still. For the bed, I decided on a queen. I had a full in the van that was way too small with me, the boyfriend, and the dog a lot of the time sleeping in here. So I decided to go back to a queen, and we are still side to side sleeping, which you do have to crawl over the other person in the middle of the night, and that's fine. But I was going to lose too much space going front to back, and then there was going to be too much of like a gap on each side, whereas with a queen, I think it's 88 inches all the way across the ambulance, and a queen goes to 80. So we do have like a small gap, but that is where I'm putting like laundry. Pippa nests in there. Pippa actually used that as like a step to get up into the bed, so that worked out really well. But sleeping front to back, I was just going to lose too much space and then have too much awkward space. So I don't think we're going to change that because we're pretty used to sleeping like horizontally, I guess. And obviously with a full queen sitting in there, there's no need for flares or anything like that in the ambulance. Since it's square, it works really well. I did the same thing, or my boyfriend did the same thing with the bed. He just did it slatted so I wouldn't have to ventilate it another way. We were just putting it on raw wood exactly the same way as we did with the van. Only he didn't unfortunately have my help with it because I was working and doing other things. So the bed is basically exactly the same as the bed that I had in the van that we made the last time. I went with a hybrid mattress this time. I've talked about this, I think, a little bit, but when those all foam mattresses get too cold, they are like rock hard. And I camp enough at this point in the cold, which is unfortunate because I hate being cold and I honestly don't want to, but the way life goes, you can't control the weather anymore. And it really hurts your back over time, and it like you kind of get stuck like just in your spot because it just becomes like a brick, like those memory foam mattresses. So I have a hybrid spring and foam mattress. So there's foam on top, but then the spring underneath, so it doesn't get so hard when it's cold in there. And then I put a pillow topper on top for like a little extra cushion because I don't know. I'm like getting a little bougie on the road. I like want a lot of things now. I've roughed it enough that like I like spending the time and money and energy on the things that make my life more comfortable while I'm on the road instead of scrimping everywhere. I think it's fine to scrimp and budget all you want, or if you have to. I had to for a very, very long time, and I don't want to do that with this build. I'm really, really loving the ambulance, so I'm probably going to put a little bit more effort into it. We kind of are taking this on as our little winter project. We're not rushing to get this done because honestly, even though it looks a little rough, it's super, super functional. The only thing that we're both hurting for, especially when we're having dinner together, is a table. So we're gonna try to get the like kitchen set up and dialed in here in the next month or so. So I'll probably update you guys with that. But right now we're just using like my camping folding table, and it's a little too large for the space. So we're having to like take it out and put it away if we want to use the space for literally anything else. Also, we were keeping the jump seat in as seating for either one of us to sit at the table, but that jump seat is so uncomfortable. You have to sit like perfectly straight up. Like there's no way to like lean it back or to like, it's very narrow, so there's no way to like cross your legs and like get comfy. So we're also going to do away with that and probably just build our own little bench seat. But yeah, I feel like everything's been going really well. Obviously there's a lot left to do. Everything's just kind of in bins. Everything's kind of just like piled around, unfortunately. But I don't want to invest a ton into like different storage when I know we're going to build storage, and the price of wood isn't getting any cheaper. So I'm keeping my budget for that. But I figured I'd give you guys a little look around and a little update. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I think it'll be fun to see the progress on how everything goes over the next couple months, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye!